Welcome, welcome, welcome. Looks like we have our usual crowd here. We do have somebody that drove all the way from Huntsville to come hear Cheryl. She must have heard about our legendary Cheryl. But Cheryl always gives us good information for the intern class on roses, and she also manages our rose garden in right here in Centerville. So she is the go-to person if you have any questions on roses. So without any further ado, Cheryl, you've got it.
Okay, so first of all, I want to welcome you all out in this weather. TJ and I nearly washed off the road between here and Buffalo, but we were thinking we were driving down to do this fun lesson on roses with Teresa and Bill. And so really appreciate all of you for getting out and weathering the weather, and hope this will be worth your while. As you can see from our picture up here, we're going to talk about knockout and drift roses. I had to add this with a few others thrown in. So let's go ahead to the next one here, and the rose, queen of the garden. Now I want to tell you, everybody knows how I am about roses, how I love roses, but I think that is an uncontested statement that it is definitely the queen of the garden. How many of you would agree? Okay. So, I mean, who can look into the face of that gorgeous thing and not just know that's the queen, right? So before we get into talking about knockouts and drifts, we got to generalize here. We have to talk about the whole topic, right? So first of all, what I've got here is, and what I'm going to show you are basically roses that are not in the knockout and drift group, that are just all kinds of different roses and that have come from my yard. Because I felt like for all of us that live in this beautiful cow country area, we all want to stick roses here and there. You know, how many of y'all have a real love in your heart for roses that maybe began when you were a child? When you were a child, what was it about? What was it that made you love a rose? Smell. What was that? Smell, the fragrance. Okay, that was the general. That excites me, because that's the first thing on my list when I list this. So, what else? What else makes us love a rose?
Well, the colors.
Okay, colors. Okay. The colors and the cabbage rose effect, she says. Somebody else? Just its general appearance. Okay.
It signifies love.
It signifies love.
It also means a lot. I mean, it's not like a one-time thing.
A party just go and
Yeah.
I knew if I got y'all turned loose, y'all teach this for me. This is awesome. Woo, yes. Yes. So,
I want to ask a question before you change that, because I know you could change that. What is that yellow rose? What variety? I know.
that is not a rose.
What is it?
That is,
It's like a lily?
yes, something out of my yard. It could, it might be a daylily. This is what I do. This is what I do. No, I was just thinking, is it a yellow bells, or is it one of my daylilies? And then you see a salvia stuck in there. What I thought we'd do is, before we really talk about knockouts and drifts and what an exciting thing it is to have them, I want us to realize what all is still available and what their place is in our Leon County gardens. Okay? So one thing we haven't said that we love about roses is we can have cut flower bouquets. Okay? Not every rose is good for cut flowers, right? But these all were off of bushes in my yard at various times. Now, you would think I've got these big old beds, rose beds. No. I've got a rose bush stuck here and I've got a rose bush stuck there. And that's what I would hope that we would all learn to do, is how to use those roses as focal points for enjoyment, to spend time in really enjoying them. And cut roses is one way. I don't have a vase of roses in my house all the time, but if I'm having a party or having some guests over or friends, I'm going to run out and I'm going to, let me just show you this. We're going to talk about knockout. This is one cluster. This is one cluster from the peach drift. Now, I'm going to show you pictures. I'm going to show you pictures of peach drift in a few minutes, and you're going to see varied colors of peach drift. How many of you have peach drift? So, okay. Okay, so several of you do. And you know that seasonally their colors are different. In the early spring, they're much more vibrant and vivid. Throughout the summer, this is a paler pink. It's a paler peach, and it's fading. You can already see yellow coming out in it. It changes colors. One of the reasons, and I'll talk more about this particular one, one of the reasons I love this one is because of its variety of colors on one bush, like a rainbow. So that's one cluster. So I just went out and cut off one cluster and stuck it in a vase. We'll talk about that one in a minute. Okay. So just note these roses, because you'll see these bushes in other places, okay? So another little bud vase sitting in the bathroom when company was coming. Anybody guess what that rose is?
Belinda drinks.
Well, how'd you guess? Because that's my favorite. Everybody knows that's listening to me talk about roses, and if you tell me I only have room in my yard for one rose, or I've got an apartment kind of girl, I can only have one rose, it has to be Belinda's Dream. Now, I love 1,000 roses, but it has to be. And we're going to see why. We're going to look at it, and then how could you even argue with that? Okay. So there she is. I'm looking. These are not nearly as colorfully showing up as they seem to be on the paper. But anyway, that's the face of a Belinda's Dream when it's a bud that's unfurling. Now let me just say about that particular one. It's not stuck in a really good place, but it's been stuck in this place for years. And it's been stuck in this place for years, and it's right by my back door into my sunroom, and don't tell anybody that it's not planted in the earth kind of way, but it's got not even mulched. It's planted in pool rock. It's in the pool yard. And it's right by my back door. It thrives. I don't know why it thrives there, but it's there because I wanted it close, and that's what I want to encourage you to use this kind of a rose, and don't put it out yonder. That makes a bit showy thing. Put it close where you walk by it and you bump against it, and you can bend over and smell it and enjoy that fragrance that everybody, the consensus was, loved. Or if I need to run, I can go look, and there may be at least five big, huge blooms on that one low bush. If I'm in a hurry and I want to reach out from the sunroom and cut one. So stick them in in just wherever you want them. And I've got several Belinda's Dreams stuck around. Okay. So there she is on a bush. Now that's kind of, you see how big all those blooms are? They're huge. They last. That's what makes good cut flowers. They last. And they've got gorgeous, densely petaled faces, very fragrant. And that's not all. Look at the foliage. They're a shrub rose that's very, very beautiful foliage. So even when they're not in bloom, they're not just an ugly stick. Okay. There again, that's one nosegay, one little bouquet off of a Skyrocket rose in my yard. I love this rose, and May is when it has these bouquets, and I mean, just big bouquets, bigger than that bouquet, just one big cluster.
It has good fragrance.
Not as fragrant, no, not as fragrant. I'm big if they don't have a fragrant, but if they're showy, hardy, and really a good rose otherwise, then I'll be won over. And this one has definitely won me over. When my granddaughter that got married in this past November, when she was like, I don't know, 15, she said, "Mammy, when I get married, I know where I'm coming to get my bridal bouquets, all my bridesmaids' bouquets. I'm going to come pick them off this rose." That's how gorgeous it's always been. So,
Did she do it?
no. She was too far away, and it was November, and the beauty of it is really in May. It was a good thought, because it would have been beautiful. It'd have been beautiful down a table at a wedding, So there is where that one is tucked in a back corner, and boy, does it brighten that spot. I mean, that's out on the barn side end of our house. We drive by, and I can always look over there, and it's just always So where is it stuck? In an out of the way corner, but it sure does brighten its corner where it lives, doesn't it?
Is that just one plant?
That's one plant.
Coming in a color?
No, that is Skyrocket. So if you can get your hands, all of these that I'm showing you, you can actually have access to. Couple of them you can get locally, and then at least, if nowhere else, Antique Rose Emporium has all these. So this one I know they have, usually. So be sure you get the Skyrocket, not the Skyrocket Climber. It's not quite the same, and you can, overlook that. It would be pretty too, but it's not the same as far as to drape. And I can just hack that back and trim it, cut them all back, and then it just takes off blooming again. It doesn't have to be cut, but I mean, I don't want it I don't want a tree. So. And y'all stop me anytime I'm talking if you have a question about something that we're looking at. Okay. This one, that color is not a true color on this picture.
It's better on the.
It is better on the copy.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely a pink peach. It's a pink. It's a pastel pink, very similar to Belinda's Dream, but not the same bluish pink, but a peachy pink. Lovely, densely petaled rose, about this size. Actually, Savannah is in the rose garden, and it's a rose that one of the newer line of roses, modern shrub roses, like Belinda's Dream. That is a modern shrub rose, and I'm high on this one right now. It's done really well in the rose garden. It does well for me at home. And it's always got blooms on it. However, this morning, it did not. So the rain, and I had just had 4 or 5, and they all were kind of spent. Okay, so that is along the sidewalk going over toward the pool yard, and that's where that one is located in my yard. You look at her petals. Now that's when she was, I don't know, she hadn't been in the ground but 6 months. She just can't quit blooming. She just blooms all the time. It
A little shorter than Skyrocket.
no. Oh yes. Oh yeah. But then Skyrocket. Yes, I'm saying Belinda's dream. Not necessarily this. You know, she's down. I can cut her to that size. That's how she started. Right now, she's like this, the same spot, that same rose, right? And she's shooting up all these things, and every one of them's got roses on the end, and I enjoy the roses, then I have to cut it way back. She just goes crazy, so you got to, keep her down, but she blooms. Is that better?
Maybe you should put her in a little bit easier spot for her to grow.
Well, she doesn't have any problem growing there, but to have a room to spread out. I know, but I wanted my path lined with beautiful roses. Yes, yeah. Now, speaking of, if you want you want to have the beauty of the petals dropping. If you can get the Maggie rose, you can get that at Antique Rose Emporium. Maggie, it was named by Dr. What's his name? William Welch. Dr. Welch found that one and named it. They found it, I'm pretty sure, being as you asked, Louisiana girl in Louisiana, and named it Maggie, I think for his wife. I'm not sure, I can't guarantee that. So they're smaller. Like I say, there's a lot of roses you can enjoy that are not the big-faced, beautiful rose like Belinda's Dream, like Savannah, those type, but they're smaller, but they're very enjoyable in the landscape, and it'll get covered with these clusters kind of blooms like this, cherry red, and the fragrance is like grandma's the rose milk lotion that you used to smell when you were a kid. The fragrance is like that, and they drop petals, and it's just all over the ground. And they just keep on. It's just lovely, like by a white picket fence or that type thing. So. Okay, so anyway, I did want to tell you that is called Savannah, and it's by Kordes, and it's from the Sunbelt collection of Kordes. The breeder is Kordes, Sunbelt collection. This little bouquet back there, I should have it up here so I could show you, but got it? This rose right here is called Soul Sister. And she is also in the Sunbelt collection by Kordes. So you know, it's a pretty good collection. Soul Sister is a peachy orange, beautiful, kind of a roughly petaled girl. And I just think it's so interesting that I know of 3 specific that I really do like these particular roses that are in that same collection, the Sunbelt collection. I'm going to go jump back up. to that red rose in the front. See the front, right? That rose is also in the Sunbelt collection. That's Desmond Tutu. I have to call him a him, but I usually.
If he has Tutu in his name, he might not be all.
Okay, so, all right. I did want to point out, everybody's always looking for a good yellow rose. How many of y'all are always looking for a good yellow rose?
Good cheer. You're right.
How many of you have found a wonderful, great yellow rose? If you do, let.
That's why I asked you what that yellow one was a while ago. I have one of those, and I am too impressed with it.
How big is yours? How wide?
It's about that way around.
Okay, well, you're doing better than me so far. So, but
It just keeps going up, and it's bloomed 3 times already.
okay,
It's beautiful.
okay. I'm gonna top. Any other yellow roses that y'all can tell me?
Julia Child's yellow.
Julia Child. Julia Child is one a lot of people talk about, and it's a pretty rose, and it stays low. It doesn't last for 3 or 4 years. Fighting off the disease and what have you, but it's a nice rose.
Do you have one that
Do I have a yellow rose that has a scent?
has a scent and smell? Oh, smell like a fragrance.
No, no, but if there would be a scent, and I know there's a yellow one, and I can't call the names of them specifically, but David, what's the British rose breeder that I have his Abraham Darby, David Austin. There's not much that he has that does not have a scent, and they're usually lemony. It's it's some of the most beautifully scented roses, and there's very lemony, and what you had was probably something of his, but he has some. So if you look at David Austin roses, just look them up and look for some yellow ones. You'll run across some, and they invariably have a fragrance. This is one of all those that to me has the most striking yellow color. I mean, it's like she says, it's that yellow down there. It is.
Yellow roses from Grace Kelly's wedding. She remembers this yellow that all these women wore in their roses, and kept looking for this yellow.
Well, my daughter had this buttercream yellow, and there's a rose, Graham Thomas rose, if any of you have had that one, that you can look up. It's a small climber, Graham Thomas. It's a buttercream yellow. Graham, Graham. Yeah, like graham cracker. And they're like a mannerly climber, we call them. You can find that's a beautiful color. Okay. This Graham, like graham cracker. Thomas. And this is mine as I'm trying to get that one established. So please excuse the background. That is right by our garden fence, and that's the fertilizer and the dirt getting put in the pots. So, but you see how it's not that big, and you look how many roses are on it. And let me just say, when those roses come on there, they don't fall off for a long time. I mean, right? Isn't that what you find? I mean, they last. Yeah.
It's one of the Rose Rustlers roses too. It's the OTR.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's the grandma's yellow.
It's grandma's yellow. It's also a Texas Superstar. It's Miss Texas Superstar talking over there. So yeah, it is a Texas Superstar. But it is a thorny rose, and it's not fragrant that I can sense. But anyway, it's doing very well there, so I'm pleased of how it puts out the roses.
And it likes to climb?
It's not a climber.
Okay.
No,
That other
no.
one she said climb. Oh,
No,
okay, that's
no.
not a trellis.
No, that one is still Grandma's Yellow. Its official name is Nacogdoches. Yeah, okay. Okay, so and I just want you to see some of the different varieties of color. And as she mentioned, the OGRs. How many of y'all know what an OGR means? What is an OGR? OGR is it stands for Old Garden Roses. Old Garden Roses. It's like antique roses, heirloom roses, OGRs. The key thing about OGRs is they grow on their own roots. So you can propagate them, you get the same rose. They were not budded. Okay, so all of these roses, even the modern shrub roses that like Belinda, they're all off of the OGRs. The old roses, they've been bred that way, so they're not budded roses. So just so you know, they've come modern, and the bloodline of these OGRs and antiques are in all of these roses of today, these modern good roses like Belinda's Dream and so many others. So, and speaking of antiques, we have the oldest, the one that's her bloodline, and I teach this in the class, of course, but her bloodline is generally somehow affected or involved in the bloodline of modern roses today, and that's Old Blush from the 1700s that she's been in this country and that we know of. And we have her in the corner at the Rose Garden, and she's just been thriving. So, and then there's climbers. Anybody want to hazard a guess as what that is?
Peggy.
Well, of course. That is not my yard. But that is Peggy Martin. That is Peggy Martin. And you see how a Peggy Martin climber will just take off whatever you give it to climb on. And you see it climbed up, but it got bored, and so it kind of tumbled out here and kind of tumbled over here. So it's just like a mat of carpet of roses. This is mine, one of them. I have some of them trying to start on my fence too, but I'm trying to get her up all the way over that arbor, and you can see the other side. That's the other side. She's coming up on that side too, and those are growing up on the inside. I mean, it's going to take over the inside too. The pale pink, which looks white, is Madame Alfred Carriere. I love that rose. I just have her along the front of that arbor, and she's a nodder. She kind of hangs her head with her blooms, kind of hang. So, anyway, climbers is another wonderful way to use the rose. All the other roses, that's another kind of rose, is to stick a climber somewhere in your yard. And when I talk about these OGRs, they're not the difficult roses to grow. So what did we love about them? See, y'all came up with all the things that I had to come up. You surprised me. Everybody said fragrance to start with. Fragrance, color. They bring joy. Does it bring you joy just to look into a face? They bring joy. They brighten the garden. They brighten up the corners. So it's a consensus, right? She is the queen of the garden. Okay. Jim, she is the queen of the garden.
There's not a whole lot of them that have fragrance. Other than roses,
That have what?
There's not a whole lot of other flowers.
No,
Yeah.
no. And what was that? Well, gardenias, and you know what? Gardenias make wonderful accent flowers in those cut flower bouquets. Oh, man, just look at there. I've got the Rose of Sharon, or the Althea is also the Rose of Sharon. So I have in that other flower bouquet there, I have one of my Altheas. Can you turn that around for us?
That flower stays there, it stays pretty for quite a while.
Yeah, see, that is my double pink Rose of Sharon, and that's an Althea, Rose of Sharon. I've got Rose of Sharons all over my yard, Altheas. I've always grew up calling them Rose of Sharons. So anyway, that's a double pink. I have the big original purple, the open faced. You know, a lot of us have those. And those, you can stick them in bouquets all the time. You know, of course, they only last a day. So,
Right. But it's a good day.
yeah, it is. It's a very good day. So then if we all love them that much, why don't more of us have them in our landscapes?
I just planted some. So I always thought it was, I didn't know how. I didn't know how to prune, I didn't know how to spray.
Well, look at there, everything on there. She just said it.
Yes, it is.
She didn't think she could.
I planted 2 Nacogdoches because I graduated from Nacogdoches. They both died, so I said, okay. It's not meant to be.
That's the hardest one to start with, really. That's not,
So I keep trying.
well, that's the hardest one to start with, okay? Yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest, no, so, yeah. So then, okay, so why don't more of us that have them in our landscapes? I've just shown you how you can stick them in a corner, you can stick them by the back door in the pool rock, you can.
Are you having to spray? What is the spray?
No.
Because I was about to say, other than water, I've never sprayed.
No. So are we afraid to try to grow them, as she just voiced? Yes. How many of you how many of you have roses all over your landscape?
My interest, so I get.
Okay, so how many of you have some roses in your landscape? How many have, well, you said one? Okay. One. Okay. Well, no, Rosa Sharon is not a rose. Yeah, it's not a rose. It's shrub. Okay, so we're afraid to try to grow them. Too much pruning, too much spraying, etc. So we just gave up, right? No. No. Wait. Look. Something revolutionary happened in the rose world in 2000. It was in 2000. So see, we had to talk about all this other to build you up to why everybody's afraid, but so everybody gave up. Don't give up, because guess what? In the year 2000, the knockout rose happened.
I think it married to a piece of bamboo. Because there is no getting rid of it.
Well, now today we're here to talk about the merits of the knockouts and the drift roses. So, Will Radler, remember that name. He's known as the grandfather of the knockout rose. He was a rose breeder, really breeding out from his home. And he came up with a seedling. And this was like around in 1990. Came up with a seedling that revolutionized the rose market. Imagine that, what it's turned the rose market on its heel. A rose, that was what we dreamed of. What? Maintenance free. You agree? How many of you have knockout?
Oh, God.
Nobody but 2?
I did.
Okay. It was introduced then in 2000. He took it to the Conard Pile / Star Roses breeder. marketing company, and it was marketed by Star Roses. It's disease and bug resistant. It's a repeat bloomer. It blooms from frost to frost. I mean, from can to can. It doesn't stop. It's drought resistant, winter hardy. Goes through these droughts. Whatever we can put it through in Leon County, keeps on blooming. And it's self-cleaning. What does that mean?
We're not deadheading, we're not.
Okay. It's a self-cleaner, which most of the OGRs are the ones particularly that made earth kind, those kind of roses are self-cleaning. Means it doesn't really mean that, it just means that they'll bloom right alongside the deadheads. That's what it means. Some roses, unless you get out and deadhead the dead roses off, they won't put out more. But many of those, like I've shown you in my yard, you know, those type, the OGRs, many of them, they just keep right on. The knockout, and I brought this. This is my favorite knockout. It's the double knockout. When the original, well, let's move on. It began with the original Rosa Nacogdoches. That particular rose made the earth kind listing. It was just a single cherry red, single petal rose. I remember when it came out, it was just an open-faced 5-petal rose, but it would just bloom all the time. It was just like this. And then came the double. This is my favorite. They've since gotten several more. I'm going to list them for you. I did not put all the pictures of every new knockout nor every new drift. They've come up with a lot of new ones, just that I've not even seen them yet. I don't know how easily they are available, some of them. But there's blushing knockout. There's coral knockout. This is double knockout. There's easy beezy knockout. That is yellow. It's like a bright yellow. They have 2 others that are yellow, though, because they have orange glow, peachy, pink double, pink, rainbow, and sunny, and white. Okay, one other. So easy beezy is yellow, and sunny knockout is yellow, and both of them have bright yellow, and then they fade to white, so it'll look like there's white and yellow on the same bush, you know. So you can go online and look at all these different ones. This orange glow it's what it sounds like. Pink double is my second favorite. Those are the 2 that you'll see me show you some pictures of up here. But I brought this one just so you can be reminded. You know, we were driving through, I guess, I don't know if we were in McDonald's line or whatever. We were in the drive-through, and right there was the most gorgeous one of these. You can see these out on the roadside parking lots, you know, in the stores, and they just thrive in that heat and that concrete. And so right there was a wall of them. And I mean, it was just massive color, just like that first picture that we started off with, just a massive color. So this is a new one, hadn't been put in the ground. I left the deadheads on here just to say, I would never deadhead and knock out. They don't need it because they're so busy with being covered with blooms, you don't notice the deadheads. That's, you know, so. There's double knockout. They can be used as borders, hedges, because not low borders, but they'll grow. I don't know how high they will get, but 4 foot's not a big deal, you know, but you can keep them cut at whatever level. But obviously there is against a foundation around a house, keeping like a hedge around a foundation.
How often can you trim those?
Anytime you want to.
I do them all the time and they bloom more.
I'll say this. I didn't know this about knockouts actually, and I still don't think I would do it exactly that way. But I did read in studying up more things about knockouts that in the early spring, take your hedge trimmers and just, and you know, I teach pruning. And I will always teach it to be how it to be done the correct way. However, knockouts, it said, just take your hedge shears. It said, cut them to 12 inches. It hurts my heart. I can't. 18 inches to me is extreme. But anyway, so, but what that says to me is early spring, just go at whatever level you want, not right where you want it to be, because then it's going to get there and beyond. And then they'll just be covered with color all summer. Okay, so there's a tip for you. There is the double pink. It's still at the, now, it looks like it's got white all over it. It doesn't have white all over it. You know, it's pink. It's pink. So, but it's double and it's lovely, and they make the same kind of blooms. And that's at its smaller. It'll get bigger if you want it bigger, or you have to maintain them to keep them lower. Okay. And then later, introduced by the same breeder, Star Roses, in 2006, was the drift rose. How many of you have drifts?
Not yet.
Oh, that's become one of my new favorite types of roses. I use them all over the place, as you're going to see in my yard. So,
Hey, Cheryl, back to the, I had 60-foot hedge when I started. Gorgeous. And one day I looked the leaves on one or two. Then the next day, went all the way down. And killed every single one of my.
was that the rosette disease, you think?
I have no idea.
Oh, I hope not.
This is a gopher?
But it was knockout. It wasn't. It was knockout.
Was it gopher? The only other thing that can do that is a gopher.
No, I would have, trust me, I know that. No, it wasn't, the roots were attacked. Fell off, and they just died. And I'm talking in a week, all of them, all I do is destroy.
Leaf cutter ants.
Right?
Leaf
That's
cutter
right.
ants.
It was a leaf cutter, so I saw no.
Had someone been spraying in the area?
I'm wondering about that. I'm wondering about, right, they call it extension, but herbicides.
If they were spraying for goat weed near you, I don't know. I've not heard of that happening, so I don't know.
That was devastating.
When was that?
It's been about 5 years ago.
Mm.
It was devastating because solid bread, it was.
Did you put another one in?
Afraid to, right? Yeah, yeah, in the same place. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if you heard of that. Because it was-
No,
it was
I'm not.
so devastating.
Yeah,
I mean, literally overnight.
yeah. I will say that she said gophers. I had the most gorgeous, and Nancy knows how much I love this because she loves this rose, and I had a gorgeous souvenir, not souvenir de Saint Anne's, but souvenir de Malmaison. Thank you for saying it for me. I have souvenir de Saint Anne's, which is the daughter, the sport from Souvenir de la Malmaison. But I had the original mama, Souvenir de la Malmaison, and she took up this big, she was huge, all the way down the side of the driveway. And you drive by and she'd just be covered in her big, densely petaled, beautiful blooms. And you could smell the fragrance just everywhere. You roll the car down, you could smell it wafting in the breeze. And then one day, she just died. Like that. Just died. And it was a gopher.
Well, it was, my husband literally.
Oh, yeah. Well, yours.
So big, chains around it, pull it up, the roots were
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm thinking yours was probably what we talked about. But in my case, that was my first experience up here to realize that yes, gophers will eat the roots. And there was, you pull it and there was, it just, yeah. So, okay, so here with the drift. In your picture, it's pretty dark on your handout, somebody said, but this is one of my peach drifts. How many of y'all have a peach drift?
Not yet.
Okay. Uh,
Got it.
it's my experience that in early spring and real early, they're just vibrant, vivid colors. This right now, this came off of that same bush. And right now, all over it are clusters. They grow in clusters, you can see, of bigger blooms. The red the red drift, which is a great functional for a lower border even, has smaller blooms and clusters, and it's very showy. But these are bigger blooms in the clusters. So right now, that rose is covered with deadheaded that need to be cut off. And you do have to do that every now and then. They get so big and they're huge like this, and they're deadheads of clusters, all of them. You just go whack them all off. Yeah, but that's the color. Now those, had they stayed on the bush, would have been, a couple would be yellow, a couple would be orange, a couple would be white. They fade to different colors. Okay, so that's what I love about the drift. And it's also a fragrant drift. Not all drifts are fragrant. See if that has a fragrance to y'all.
What about the apricot drift?
Oh, yes.
Not as much as the peach. I mean, it's pretty. It doesn't vary its colors quite the same, but it's still pretty too. So most of your drifts, not all of them, have a fragrance, but that particular one is
Your budget.
is fragrant.
I'm making lots of notes.
Well, you drove a long way to hear about these drifts, and I'm going to fill your ear full. This is coral drift, my second favorite. How many of you have coral drift? You can see this rose from the street. I mean, you want to landscape with it and tuck it in. They are great for anchoring a border around a flower bed, an anchor rose for tucking into corners or being the focal in a bed and with some grasses or greenery around it. So it looks red. I do. I do have shade. Can what now? What'd you say?
Tolerate shade.
Yes. Every rose has got to have some sun to bloom. They need 6 to 8. If our gardens were heaven, it would all be morning sun, right? Okay. So morning sun, the hard late evening sun is harder on them, but what they're better at is enduring the heat and the sun. They can be out in the middle of a freeway median in that heat. What more heat and sun is that, and still thriving? That's how hardy these drifts are. So anyway, it looks red. That rose there, it's spilling out over the corner of the bed there, and they'll get huge this way. They'll spread and they'll get up to this tall. So they don't stay just because it says they're ground covers and they spread this way, but they don't stay low this way. They get some height to them. Okay, but you can depend on their height because they won't get. They're not going to get 5-6 feet tall. It's going to be like this.
Were they a reddish orange?
Are they more floral than that?
That is more of a reddish orange. They're not really red. That's red drift. And red drift they're tiny, and they're tiny clusters, and they'll just be like a carpet of red. So those make good borders, and it'll stay a little lower than some of the others. This is a drift that I love, that I had and I lost. If you can get your hands on one, do it. Just to think of me, because I lost mine. Buttercream drift was a great drift. Fragrant. The roses were the biggest roses I've seen on a drift. And it's like a creamy yellow, fades to white. And it has a hint of pink to it. It's just beautiful, and I lost it in the drought trying to get it established.
I
But
like how you say you lost it instead of it died. I like that.
they're never they're
It left.
yeah. It just left. You know, my theory on that: if you lose one, get another one.
Next.
Never give up. Next, which kind am I going to try now? Where am I? So using knockouts and drifts in the landscape. Here again, it's just, you've already seen some little spots, but here's, let's see here. We've got them all kind of grouped. I don't know what that is. Okay, this is in my yard. This is in a corner bed, goes out like this with you know, we live on a ranch, so it's like, where I used to live, I had more like rose beds and gardens, but now just like the less things to weed that I can find. But this again, that is a peach drift that's kind of a focal there on the side. You see how big it is? It's got, I think that's a Victoria salvia. Thinking of complementary pollinators that you can put around these roses. There's a little path that goes around. I think that's a, back by that bench is a rosemary out there that's gotten pretty big. Rosemary grows great up here, right? Y'all have rosemary in your yard? Okay. And then the focal point in that bed is a wax myrtle. You can't really see the tree. You see in the background right there in the middle of it, barely, it's a wax myrtle. Y'all have wax myrtles? I've got them all out by my creek running the whole place, but I can't transplant them. They don't do well. It's two different things. They're not the same. A wax myrtle is just a beautiful shrub tree that it grows out wild up here, but they don't, I mean, you go buy one. I had to buy mine. I bought mine. They're kind of expensive to buy, but they make the most beautiful architectural trunk, just shrub to go up as a focal point. And so I have one on both corners of the place in similar beds as the focal point, with anchoring it with drifts and pollinators around. So what kind of pollinators do y'all plant with your roses? What do you have? What do you think? What do you think are good? Salvias of varied sizes. There's the tall for a cottage garden, the Henry Duelberg, but they're big and they'll take over, and you just hack them back in half and they just bloom again, but don't stick them in the front like you use with Victoria or what's another one of the lower growing, a Mystic Spire, I'm not sure. Yeah, they come back. They'll come back. Just hack them down, leave the roots in the ground, hack them back, and they come back. Just don't pull them out by the roots. Okay? And then daylilies. And then how many of you have the Stella d'Oro daylily? Stella d'Oro daylily. It's just a daylily that's just very, very, very hardy. And it blooms more kind of through the summer. It might have you another bloom a time or two. It's just that bloom here and there, because daylilies generally they have May or June, like a month to 6 weeks of blooming. Yeah. So, But the little Stella d'Oro daylily is a great one. You might write that down and look for it. Stella d'Oro, it's a yellow daylily.
Turk's cap. Oh, yeah.
Turk's cap, and the pink. I have the pink Turk's cap, and it takes over. It's huge.
Yes.
Have to cut it back, and it makes all these babies. Butterflies love that. What are some other pollinators that you might use? Lantana. I will say this, and you know I've got a lantana in one of those little vases. I love lantana, but don't plant it right next to a rose because it will take over. It'll just really crowd them out. So plant your lantana elsewhere, but boy, I love lantana. They're real pollinators. Okay, so this is double red knockouts and salvia. This is two different pictures. You see the one on the far right? This is TJ, my husband, has a bed out by the flagpole, and he has double red knockouts around it. I didn't have a picture with the flag flying, but up above, that is the flag, and you see the pole in the middle, and so they're very showy from the road. Double red knockouts from the road, you just gotta, when you plant them in mass knockouts, like Tina said that she had this gorgeous hedge of them, just a wall of them. But when you plant like 3 or 4 or 5 in mass, and you're, say, sitting out from the highway or the road, it's just this beautiful spot of color. They're very showy from the road. And those are, and he's got the Henry Dewelberg lantanas planted out amongst, so he's got the red and the white and the blue. So, anyway, and that's just another landscape picture showing knockouts. Now that's when they're small. They've probably just been put in the ground not long ago, those red double knockouts in that landscape. You can also layer, put your knockouts and then put some drifts down in front. Or what about using dwarf grasses? I use dwarf grasses, be sure that they're dwarf to get the foliage and the variety of texture in your beds. So look for a little dwarf. I can't call the name of a specific, but I have some little dwarf grasses. And they also had texture in your landscape. There again, somebody's got a hedge of double knockouts. Kind of looks like they're covering up that back fence. And then they've got like a purple Japanese maple there in the front or something, but they've made that corner pretty, like my knockout. My Skyrocket brightened up that little ugly corner on the back. Makes you smile. Brings you joy. Thank y'all. There again. I mean, how beautiful is that? Just a showy color, just always full of color.
That's your double knockout?
That's a double knockout. It's not at my house, but that is a double knockout.
One of mine now is like 6 foot. We're all in the entrances because we haven't planted the house yet. And the cows will eat wood. When they get in, they'll, but they only wood more when they.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
They're like,
So you can plant them at entrances. You can plant them to brighten up a corner, an ugly fence, or just a variety of ways. And they're showy and mass from the road. Okay, there again, that's that same picture of the pink double. Okay, that's that same shot. Okay, this is that same bed where you can better see that the wax myrtle in the picture. So you can have like in a bed have a focal like shrub or tree, small understory thing like the wax myrtle, which is a big shrub, and I try to trim things off to make it and keep the architecturally pretty trunks on the bottom. And then
wax myrtle the same as the wax leaf of
no.
that we always had.
Yeah, no, and it's a native plant to here, but you can buy them here. I know I got these at the mine I bought at the Hughes Plant Farm in Jacksonville, but you can find them to buy. Uh, Say that again. Yes, they're evergreen, and they have a fragrance to the leaves.
What
They're
color is their
yeah. It's just the leaves are kind of a waxy. They're kind of a waxy, and it's you can just rub them, and they have a medicinal kind of just a menthol. I don't know, a little fragrance to them. And like I say, I've got them growing all out there by my creek and all in the pastures. But I've tried to transplant them, and it just doesn't work. I don't know that they like it by out there. But so I've bought them, and they work for me. I've got like 3 different
But you
ones.
find them more near your creeks and wets? They naturally only live in
Not down in the water, actually. So no, not just out in the middle of the woods. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a picture of. That's a picture in the rose garden when some workers were there. If you look at the red drift, you see the border, red drift in the landscape. So knockout roses then can be used for focal points in mixed beds. They can be used for hedges, borders, we've already seen, brightening up the corners. Drifts used for borders along the walkways or the pathways, small spaces, tucked away here and there to brighten up area in a bed. Be the focal point in that bed. Layered plantings. Drifts can be planted as foreground plants with taller evergreens like that wax myrtle. They can be planted with small grasses on either side or daylilies. And then they can be put in planters. I have a sweet drift. It's a little pink one. As a matter of fact, the sweet drift is the drift that's in the front of the rose garden under the sign. Those are sweet drift. That is not a drift. The pink, that little pink cluster of flowers, they're little cups, and it's called Lemoine. That rose is huge. It's as tall as my fence. I'm gonna tell you, I've told about that rose in my class before. I brought it with me 20 years ago. I brought it with. Hold that up so everybody can see. Yeah, just pull that out. It's covered. I mean, it's covered with those. Covered. It stays covered with those. Let me tell you the story of this rose. I brought it with me 20 years ago in a pot. I'd had it for years in spring in a pot. I brought it in this big pot. It was big in this big pot. I set it out in the pool yard by the fence. It grew out in the pool yard in all that sun. It just thrived. It got huge. So much so that it filled up that pot. It burst the pot. I had to peel the pot away. It grew just in the ground, and I've always said that its roots gone through the drought. I mean, I can't tell you the drought here, and it's got its roots in China. And it's sucking up water from around the world because I don't know how it has thrived.
It's got its own water rights.
And it has its own water rights. So that is Lemoine. It's an old garden rose. And right now, those are kind of faded. Those are faded. And that's how pretty faded. You see what a pretty little filler rose it is, but just covered. So Lemoine, Lamarne. Antique Rose and emporium would be where you would find that probably. Drift roses pair well with various perennials and other pollinators, as we've been talking about. Let's see, salvias, daylilies, coreopsis. That's another yellow, airy yellow flower. Coreopsis. We didn't mention yarrow. Echinacea. How many of y'all have some echinacea? Purple coneflower.
Only in a
Purple coneflower. You ever get you? I'm about to put one in the rose garden perennial, a watermelon echinacea, like a purple coneflower, only it's yeah. So they're great. Love echinacea. Marigolds, catmint. You don't know what catmint is? Oh, y'all. My cats love catmint.
Yeah, I didn't think they would, but they really do.
Well, it kind of calms them down a little bit, or hypes them up. I'm not sure, but
I want to attract cats.
well, you need to. It keeps the snakes away. I've got 5. I have 5 outside cats who I dearly love. I don't have any in the side, but I love my cats, and I love in my garden to see a kitty cat hiding, laying out and sunning on a stone under a rose, or rolling in the catmint, and what have you. So, yes, catmint is, you can just buy one, plant it, and it just grows. It's going crazy right now. Has little white flowers all over it, and I mean, it's right now.
Is catmint the same as catnip?
Pretty much.
Oh, it is that.
Pretty much. It's kind of like catnip, but it's called catmint. It's kind of a catnip to
Is
cats.
it a ground cover?
Cats,
Is it catnip?
no.
Or is it
Let me show you.
okay.
Can y'all hear me if I'm not using this? Can you hear me? Okay. I have it in the ground. It comes back every year. Okay. So it came back. It's like about a little bitty. I can see the green, the perennial coming back. Right now, this is June, so 3 months. It's this tall. It's this tall. It's this big around. It's just like billowing all out of this bed, and the cats they know where it is, and they'll go over, and you can't find the cat sometimes, and he'll be hiding down under it. He's in it. You just don't see him, and they roll around, and then they love it. So it's.
I was just going to say, I just pulled up a note and it says that catnip has a strong effect on cats, whereas catmint is the same genus, but it just is not as attractive to the cats. That's the difference between catnip.
Well,
Your cats love it.
they don't know what they're
It
talking
says
about.
they look the same.
They don't know what they're talking about, because my dog could care less about this plant. But the cats, they're territorial over it. They will stand in line. Let me just say, I didn't want to say, but it's like they get high. So anyway, it's a pleasant little addition to it. Yes.
I didn't know what catnip was, and so I bought a bag of catnip for my nephew for his cats. This was a couple years ago. Well, the next time I see him, somebody says, "Do not buy any more catnip." Those cats ain't gone.
They would go crazy with it. Well, it does not have that effect on my cats. They don't go crazy. Okay. I think it's mellowing to them. Yes. Yeah. So these companion plants add color and texture to the garden, as well as attract pollinators and deter pests. So that always helps too. So that's what I have. And if y'all have some questions or